The Marshall Islands mark 71 years since the most powerful nuclear weapons test ever conducted were unleashed over the weekend. The Micronesian nation experienced 67 known atmospheric nuclear tests between 1946 and 1958, resulting in an ongoing legacy of death, illness, and contamination. And it's not just in 70 years since Micronesia, but heaps in the Pacific as well.
Yeah.
The testing ground.
Yep. It's really important to remember there's a lot of lessons again to learn. You know, we're talking about wonderful Pacific women. There's a woman named Darlene Keju who wrote Don't Ever Whisper, and she came out, I think it was in 1983, at a Christian conference which was televised in Vancouver, and she gave her testimony on what she witnessed. Cause
Is she a singer?
No, she's just, she ended up being a political activist about the nuclear program, but she was just an ordinary person who was there at the time, or I think she was on a neighboring island, and, you know, and when she shared it to it was just a Christian, it was like a Christian gathering that happens every 7 or 8 years. And it was the first time it was televised. It was the first time the world had ever heard this other side of the story. So she told them about, in the Marshall Islands, women are having jellyfish babies. So these babies come out, they look like jellyfish and octopus with like tentacles, and they're still breathing. Like the chest is going up and down. The first time anyone in the world had ever heard anything, because at that time the only thing you heard was American-sponsored media. And so it was massive. She explained how in the Marshall Islands they don't even have a word for enemy, because they don't have any enemies. Like, it's just not a thing to see somebody as an enemy. And then they were bombed, like, how many times? 67 times, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just the quantity of the bombs, it's the quality. One is Castle Bravo. Castle Bravo has an explosive yield 1,000 times stronger than Hiroshima. And it blew, completely incinerated an island, gone, not even a piece of soil left, completely gone. And what the US government did is, obviously they lied about,
Covered up.
yeah, they lied about the severity of it, and they evacuated some of the islands that were nearby, but they kept some of the islanders on nearby islands because they wanted to study the reaction that nuclear fallout has on people. So they use these people as as guinea pigs, you know, and they wanted to see what nuclear radioactive particles, as it drops down from the sky, which is the nuclear fallout, that the cloud of Castle Bravo went up like 14 kilometers in a diameter of like 10 kilometers. And they evacuated from, you know, these people, this is their ancestral lands. They've been there since the beginning of time. They moved them out, but they kept some of them on some of the islands because they wanted to see what happens.
That's evil.
That's
man.
evil, bro. This is who we're dealing with. Like, people are like, oh, colonizers aren't that bad, bro. These are the fucking savages, bro. That's diabolical.
And they're doing that because that's weapons. This is how we test our weapons when we go to war, right?
Yeah, but then also in experiments, like, if this guy grows an extra leg, can we get it to do telepathy? You know what I mean? Like, they have all this other shit that they want to do.
Yep.
But
these are not even conspiracies. These are
right. And even the American soldiers who were there or worked in the cleanup, they have filed a massive lawsuit against the American government. They got billions of payout, but the majority of them just died, like cancers and all of that shit. Darlene died in her 40s of breast cancer herself. Like, she said that, I know I'm going to die young. But she is an amazing warrior. She went out there. No one had heard this side of the story in 1983. When, remember, in New Zealand, there's 2 channels? That's all your media. There's no devices, whatever the government puts on the TV.
No Wikipedia.
No, you couldn't check the government on anything. But when she came out, her speech is still on YouTube for anyone who wants to look at it. It's a 1983 conference in Vancouver. Look up Darlene Keju. Her book is massive. It was written by her husband. She obviously, after her death, she got like person of the year, political activist. One time she's remembered. But there's this whole other side that was never told, and that's the people who lived on the island. Castle Bravo, and then the Runit Dome. There is a concrete dome in the middle of the Pacific on one of the atolls, on one of the craters that was left. They put a concrete dome, but to cover. They said all of the radioactive waste that we have left, everything, all the sand, the dirt, they put it on this island and they covered a dome and they said, yep, it's fixed. And then so in the 80s they did tests of the soil outside of the dome, and it proved to be more contaminated than the soil inside of the dome.
These guys are idiots,
bro. And so when she died, they released declassified documents that said everything she said was right. The cancer rates are through the roof. The people who they tested, I don't know if you've seen a picture of this, of a boy who's got his hands up, and you see he's got these patches. He's been burnt by the radioactive particles. Like, he dies, close to after that photo. There's so much that has happened in that area. It's really important that we remember, again, what are the lessons? The lessons is don't believe fucking American media of shit. Like, when they come and say, we have the medicine and your people need to try it and have it to save you. Remember what happened when our people were the guinea pigs in Marshall Islands, literally. And it's not just the Marshall Islands. Like you said earlier, like, no one talks about the 12 nuclear bombs that were tested in Australia on Aboriginal land. Like, that's massive. And also in Mururoa, the French, they tested 170 bombs. And 40 were atmospheric. So they blow up nuclear bombs into the sky. The rest were either subterranean or in the water. Fuck. Like, the damage that all of that does, and they just leave it. All the radioactive particles, they're all still there swirling around in our ocean and our seafood. Then you add on Fukushima, which is leaking their nuclear particles from Japan. And it's quite funny because America and France are the biggest owners of Pacific exclusion economic zones. They own more of the Pacific Ocean than anybody. Even France. France is number one, and they're not even in the Pacific. And look at what they do with it. They fucking nuke. They destroy the ocean. And this is why, and then they have the nerve to say, China's bad. Okay? And this is what how Nani K. Trask is talking about. Hold on. China's bad. China, bad China. In the meantime, America, Castle Bravo, 1,000 times, just a fact, 1,000 times stronger than Hiroshima. Boom, in the Pacific with 66 other nuclear bombs. Keep the people here because we want to see the radioactive particles land on their body. We want to see what it does. Okay? No compensation. Let's keep it quiet. Lucky enough, lucky Darlene Keju comes out and tells the world about it.
Yeah.
But bad China. For what?
Another brilliant Pacific woman you just highlighted.
Yes, and without her testimony, no one would have said shit. No one would have known because she brought it out. The Europeans at the time, what the hell? They jumped on the anti-nuclear wagon. New Zealand jumped on it, David Long and them, and the Rainbow Warrior. So if it wasn't for her, so that's why it's important that we have our social medias and bring out the other side of the story, because you can't trust these big colonial corporations and governments with the truth.